Okay, so I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Rachel, and this is my dyslexia story. My son is 10 now, going on 11. And when he was really young, I knew there was something different about him. Because if you asked him to do more than one thing, he would get ever so confused and very, very, very upset. So if you said, can you try to take the buttons off on your coats and put your coat down there, he would start screaming. And we thought that it was bad behaviour, and it wasn't. And as he went on, I'd pick him up from school, then he would be so distressed most of the time, and this went on for a few years. And his teacher pulled me aside one day and said, I think that he may be dyslexic because he's got his B's and his D's, and she was doing all of this, which is totally unhelpful. The wrong way round. And I know that his father was very dyslexic diagnosed because I read the report. And I said, well, great, let's get him tested then so we can get the help that he needs. Fast forward 3.5 years of me pushing, and he finally got his diagnosis with dyslexia. And they diagnosed him with quite severe, poor working memory under the cusp of the sphere of dyslexia. So he reverses his letters. His reading's actually pretty good. This is something people don't understand about dyslexia. You can read pretty well and be dyslexic, but his writing is so jumbled, and his concentration, he struggles. And there are things that I've found as a parent really help, like if he looks at the person that's talking to him. But the absolute struggle it's been to get him there, and how he felt sitting in a class with other people. I feel stupid, I'm stupid, mummy, I'm stupid. Having to listen, as a parent, listening to that is very, very hard. He's so eloquent, he's so intelligent, and he loves reading, and he's incredibly talented as an engineer at building things, which is a dyslexia strength. There are many strengths to dyslexia. The ignorance of other people is obviously a weakness, but it's other people's energy, not yours. But the fact that he had to go through this for this amount of time, and feeling that he was stupid because he'd look around himself at the classroom and see that everyone else had their heads down and everyone else was working. Why don't I understand what I'm being told to do? Because he obviously had the processing issues. And I find it very emotional to talk about still, because he's an absolute warrior to me, that he's been through this, and he still goes to school all the time, and he still keeps his head up, and he's maintained this group of friends, and it's really affected his self-esteem. And we've done a lot of work on it, because obviously, as small as they are, your self-esteem has to come from you. It doesn't matter what other people around you are saying, and dyslexia really affects a child's self-esteem in mainstream school. I'm now a qualified teacher recently, and I teach English. As a parent with dyslexia, I look at the students as though I'm parenting them in that way. And it's been massively helpful to my son to know I'm going on a dyslexia course, I say to him, and it really makes him feel proud. And it helps me learn more, and I buy books more to do with it. But when I'm teaching students English, I notice dyslexia, which massively helps them, because I can then refer it to be assessed. Things like when people are not concentrating, or they don't want to write things down. I do a lot with imagery as well, and I always hand out handouts on coloured paper, because one thing I've noticed is if you need a certain colour, because that helps keep the words still, the safest bet to go for if you're a teacher is blue. Failing all else if people don't have the coloured overlays. And you can buy them from Amazon. You can buy a pack of multicoloured overlays for about £19, and they last for a very long time. And you can assess your own child's ability to hold the words still with the different coloured overlays. And that's what I did. I went on Amazon before I was a teacher and I bought these overlays. Yes, it is an expense. The school should be getting them as well. But in terms of, I could then go into school and say, he needs this colour helps hold it still. But the stress and the anxiety that he suffered being in mainstream school and not having the support to start with, that had a huge detrimental effect. And obviously stress when you have dyslexia is a huge thing. If you feel accepted and supported, you're calmer, you're more grounded. The other thing that helped is I went to see a dyslexia expert before I was a teacher down south, because I live up north now. She taught him how to ground himself. It's very, very helpful to seek private help if you can. People who have a lot of really good ideas, just grounding and breathing and calming. And it works for children who have, a lot of people who have dyslexia also have ADD or ADHD or Asperger's. Quite often the two are found together. Now it helps with all of those things on the spectrum, because dyslexia is on the autism spectrum. It's classed as a learning, I call it a learning difference, because it's not a disability in terms of other things. My son can do things that nobody else in this house can do. There are 5 of us. He has an ability to process images and process what he needs to do in terms of art and in terms of building in a way that nobody else in this house can. He's massively above average in terms of all those skills. And once you get past the ignorance of other people, then you can work on your own confidence. And if you have a child with dyslexia, I would massively advise just repetition. Everything's repetition with dyslexia, but repetition building up their self-esteem. I remind my son all the time, this famous person has dyslexia, this successful person has dyslexia. And in my classroom, which I'm building for September, I've actually built this, what I call my dyslexia wall. And the title of it is Successful Dyslexic People. And there were quotes from famous people, business people, singers, actors, actresses. So that there's a repetition, and I refer to these sorts of things when I'm teaching English all the time. And I always talk to people who have dyslexia and say, but these are the skills that you probably have. And it makes them shine. It's not a disadvantage. It's something that you need to understand first, whether you have dyslexia or you're a parent or you're a teacher with dyslexia. Dyslexia training is not enough. You need to live it. You need to understand it. You need to work alongside somebody that has it, because you just don't know. You cannot. It's not enough to build up someone's ability to learn and to remember. Memory is a huge thing with dyslexia, and to organise. Organisation is a huge thing with dyslexia. It's such a positive thing when you can understand it and get to grips with it. There are huge benefits to it. Quite often jobs are advertised and they're looking for people with the skills of a dyslexic person. But please don't give up. It is not you. It is the world around you that needs to adjust. There are so many things that you can look at nowadays, resources, books you can read, ebooks you can download and listen to. There are so many things that can be done, and so much support, particularly in secondary school and colleges nowadays offer a lot of support. Dyslexia-wise, in primary schools, they don't tend to formally diagnose until someone is around 9. At first, I had a dyslexia report on my son when he was 7 and when he was 8, and they both said it's inconclusive but highly likely he has dyslexia. But we knew he had dyslexia, so the teachers were brilliant. He goes to a brilliant primary school, and they just acted as though he was dyslexia and put all these things in place, but the funding wasn't there until he had the actual diagnosis. So really keep pushing. It's hard work, it's difficult. I'm a single mum of 4, and I understand that it's difficult, but you can do it. And the world absolutely opens up, and you see your child empowered. The way that my son carries himself now is different. The head teacher said that recently. His head's up. He used to go in all slouched, looking down to the ground. It's his life, it's his world, and I needed to do something. And then it's passed over to him, and he accepts responsibility for saying when he can't concentrate, or for knowing that he needs to say, I need this help, and it's fine to say that. So I think it's a sort of teamwork effort, but it does not have to be a negative thing. It does not, I promise. I promise it does not. Just ask for help and be positive, but always move forward. When you move forward, there's no way you can go backwards. Thank you.